Yo, what's going on? Mike from Mike Talk Sports. The son of Jerry Rice and Caleb Williams' best receiver this past season, Brenden Rice, just declared for the 2024 NFL Draft. So in today's episode of Mike Talk Sports, I'm going to be giving you guys a deep dive into Brenden Rice, his strengths and weaknesses in order to determine how good is Brenden Rice actually and how does he project going forward into the NFL. He was a 3-star recruit coming out of the state of Arizona. Not only was he a high-level football player in high school, but he was also very high-level in track as well. So he's a nice two-sport athlete with a really nice physical profile to him. So he ended up spending his first 2 years of college at Colorado, and really he had limited playing time in an outright atrocious situation with a horrible quarterback and overall a horrible offense with a horrible program. This is, of course, before Colorado had Deion Sanders. So in this limited playing time and in this bad situation, he only put up 419 yards and 5 touchdowns, along with being a kick and punt returner as well. So after the first 2 years of his college career, he ended up transferring to USC, where really he showed a great deal of improvement over 2 seasons. So last year, he had 611 yards and 4 touchdowns as a junior. In this season, he actually had a really nice season. So he ended up having 791 yards on 45 catches. But really the impressive thing about Brenden Rice was him as a deep threat for Caleb Williams this year. He had 4 catches of over 60 yards. He averaged 17.6 yards per catch, and he ended up having 12 receiving touchdowns, which was 7th in the entire nation. So now let's dive into his physical profile. This is where I get really excited about Rice, projecting him into the NFL. He's going to wow so many scouts at the NFL Combine and at his pro day. He genuinely is going to have one of the bigger stock rises out of anybody coming out of this pro day, in my opinion, and it's because of this really impressive physical profile that he does have. So at roughly 6'3", 205 to 210 pounds, he projects as an outside X receiver. So again, like I mentioned earlier in the video, he does have a background in track, and he allegedly is going to run under a 4.40 40-yard dash time, which at a 6'3" frame is going to make him special in terms of that height, size, speed combination. His agility also projects pretty well going into his pro day, as I do believe he's going to put up some really nice agility drill stats as well. He has about a 38-inch vertical, which is nice. In 2022, he actually put up 17 reps of 225 pounds, which is very nice for a receiver in the pro day, and he also has a max squat of about 525 pounds. So again, make no mistake about it, Brenden Rice is a freak in the gym. But now let's dive into the film, because realistically, his statistical output throughout his career has been a bit spotty, and even this season, and especially last season for USC, it was kind of hit or miss. He would either have this huge game or he really would not show up at all. But one thing to note before I do dive into his strengths and weaknesses, he had some of the best games of his entire career against Tulane, against Oregon, in some really clutch big time situations. So I do think he has some of his father's intangibles in the sense of not only hard work, as we can see in the gym, again, he's really special, but again, in those big moments, he does have that intangible to step up. I really like Brenden's catch radius in his overall frame. He could use a couple more pounds on that frame, as it is a bit slight, but overall, he's nice in those 50-50 ball situations. I would say his hands are about a B level. He shows a really nice ability to high point the ball, but there are also so many times when I watch Brenden Rice that he is body catching, which is a bit concerning. The hands were never an issue in his college career, but would I be shocked to see him have some drops at the NFL level early on into his career? No, I wouldn't. This is a fun fact that really nobody knows about Jerry Rice, but Jerry Rice actually led the NFL in drops in his rookie season, and then he went on to obviously be the GOAT of wide receivers and arguably has the best hands in NFL history. So just because you have some early career drop issues doesn't mean you'll never have great hands. I wouldn't be surprised to see this happen with Brenden Rice. He's really good at working the boundaries as that prototypical X receiver receiver as well. He has really nice body control and a high football IQ on the boundaries. There's so many times in his college career where he had some really nice toe tap catches. Something that will also really translate to the NFL level is what he did with Caleb Williams in the scramble drills. It's a rare ability for a wide receiver to reroute his route and really find an opening in a zone defense or even in a man defense in those scramble drills, constantly keeping his eyes at the quarterback. So if he's running a route that's completely away from the scramble, he's going to get back into the play and try to make a play. And again, if he gets drafted by a team who has a really good quarterback that's good in those scramble drills, that's going to work at a high level. Now, talking a bit more about how his speed translates to the NFL field, it really allows him to create separation on a consistent basis on the intermediate to deep routes in the field. Now, while it doesn't necessarily translate to the short game, as I'll explain in his weaknesses, it really does a nice job at, again, creating opportunities for him down the field. And then once he has the ball in his hands, he's a deadly threat in the yak department, as again, he really can outrun any single defender on the field. He also has some really nice vision to him as well, as he did return kicks and punts at Colorado. Now let's dive into some weaknesses. As I alluded to earlier, he does have some body catches on his film. Of course, the lack of production is a bit concerning, and in my opinion, it'll make him drop into the later rounds of the NFL draft. I wouldn't be surprised to see a team take a chance on him and draft him in the 3rd round, but realistically, he'll probably go in day 3 of the NFL draft, somewhere in the 4th to 5th round. Now, my number one concern for Brenden Rice is how he runs his routes in the short area and really his release off of the line of scrimmage. Now, I do think he has the physical tools to fix this at the NFL level with some NFL coaching, as again, allegedly, he's going to put up some really nice agility stats, and allegedly, he does have quick feet as well. This just does not translate to his college film, in my opinion. I don't see this incredibly agile guy with this incredible foot speed out there. He's just very slow to burst off of the line of scrimmage, and I really do envision him really struggling at first in his NFL career with press man coverage. I think with that slighter frame, along with that lack of ability to drive off of the ball on the line of scrimmage once the play is established, and really his lack of ability to establish his route in the first second of the play, I do think that will hurt him. Brenden Rice is such a fun, interesting prospect. He has a bit of a lower floor, which will hurt him, but his ceiling is so damn high because of his physical ability and some of the things he flashed on film at USC. Not only this, but most importantly, when you're looking at such a high ceiling guy like Brenden Rice, it's the intangibles. He has a Hall of Fame father, and he's going to be able to tap a little bit into those intangibles, in my opinion. Obviously, am I going to project him to be a Hall of Fame level player? Obviously not. That would be absolutely ridiculous of me, but I honestly am very intrigued, and I wouldn't be surprised if he turns into a really nice receiver, a really nice outside number 2 receiver at the NFL level. My pro comp for Brenden Rice is actually going to be a former USC receiver who ended up getting picked in the 1st round of the NFL draft, and while this guy obviously was a better pro prospect coming in than Brenden Rice, and he put up much better stats, I think his NFL career was a bit of a disappointment, which is why I feel comfortable with comparing Brenden Rice, a guy who will go later in the draft, to a former 1st rounder, and I'm of course talking about Nelson Agholor. Now, before you guys click off this video and call me an idiot, Nelson Agholor actually had really good hands at USC. His hands were never a problem, and that really was the main part of the reason why he ended up failing in the NFL. Everything else about Nelson Agholor was actually really good, so he was that lower floor, very high ceiling receiver. So I do think that's a fair projection for Brenden Rice coming into the NFL. Thanks for watching today's episode of Mike Talk Sports. Let me know in the comment section below, what are your thoughts on my pro comp for Brenden Rice, and what are your thoughts on him and his Hall of Fame father? If you enjoyed today's episode of Mike Talk Sports though, I really appreciate it, guys. Smack that like and hit subscribe.